here. Flare's Firelight looking to bring XRP to a wider audience. I'm going to play the audio and then I'm going to share with you the perspective that I got from it.
So not only are we speaking to institutions, we're speaking to institutions that hold assets on behalf of retail and people that are using it every day. So there's a bunch of different angles that we're going, right? Ultimately, the core piece is delivering yield back to users that are holding XRP today. There's a variety of ways that you can do that. Firelight, kind of how I think about it, is that first stop for many people that want to set and forget, and then there's active strategies that you can run from there, right? So there's a few different active strategies that we've been thinking about that you could run. There's like synthetic longs that you can have to hedge the position and then like borrow against the XRP and then run some delta neutral positions. There's a bunch of different ways that you can run, let's say, financially engineered strategies that can deliver extra yield back, let's say, past Firelight. But how I think about Firelight is that it's going to be a revenue positive business that simply delivers revenues back to XRP holders.
What it appears that's being built with Flare are traditional financial instruments on the blockchain, in blockchain. I'm sensing another pivot here. But that's a good thing because we're starting to see those same instruments pop up on Bitcoin. They've lived on Ethereum since day one. So it is a very profitable use case. So kudos to Flare for bringing that to the XRP ledger. There was another piece to this, though, that stood out to me above everything else. And don't worry, we'll touch on Vivo as well. But it's this portion here. With Flare's yield strategies, they can offer simple opt-in XRP staking. No DeFi expertise required. Their relationship with Uphold continues to evolve. We have witnessed recently Uphold offering 4% back in XRP for a trial period on your your paychecks when they're direct deposited on Uphold. Clearly, this is testing for what they could potentially do in the future. Maybe as soon as next year, where alongside their staking offerings like Polkadot, Solana, Ethereum, what else do they have on there? Flare, which you don't even have to lock your Flare. You can just be holding Flare on Uphold and get extra Flare tokens. But this is clearly a test run, a trial period for what they're using the Flare network to do. And this tweet just emphasized that even further, and it brought it to the surface for me. So now my question is, if they're able to do it for Uphold, what's stopping them from doing it for Coinbase or Robinhood, which recently now does staking for Solana and Ethereum out of the nowhere? But what's stopping them from doing this for other exchanges? If they pull that off, the demand for the Flare network will go through the roof, ladies and gentlemen. Through the roof. To the point of I'm witnessing a pivot. This does take it away from solely bringing smart contract functionality to non-smart contract networks. Flare is now a DeFi protocol for non-DeFi networks, which is even bigger when you truly dive into it. That's a much bigger market to serve, because as we've seen with the XRP ledger and the sidechain, this makes the ledger EVM compatible, which means it can run smart contracts on its own. And I believe I was one of the first to put forth the question in the space, what does this mean for the Flare network? it means that the Flare network has to move a lot faster. And they also have to pivot ever so slightly to not offering solely smart contracts, but we'll build you an entire DeFi dashboard. We'll build your DeFi ecosystem for you. I think that's a much more powerful use case for the Flare network, as opposed to just simply offering smart contracts to networks that can't do them on their own, because we have now observed that it's merely an implementation of code and you can run your own smart contracts. It must be quite expensive. It must be quite expensive, because when I'm looking at the track record here, Ripple didn't do that for the ledger until after RLUSD dropped, and they ran up almost $700 million on that sucker. So, I found that to be very interesting. Stellar, we didn't get Soraban. We didn't get Soraban to the market till a little bit after MoneyGram access. You know? So, looking at it that way, I would assume smart contract implementation is tricky and expensive. And if you don't do it from jump, it's harder to implement later. But bringing it back to Flare, they're now entering the DeFi space. Well, can't say now entering, but they've planted the flag in the DeFi space. And that should definitely drive more demand if they maintain the focus of allowing networks that can't do DeFi on their own and bringing them into the Flare network. I paused for a moment because I had to think, can DeFi be programmed? I don't think so. I don't think that can be as easily implemented. So as long as that is a primary challenge for blockchain networks, Flare network is going to be very valuable. But let's talk a little bit about their relationship with Vivo and with Vivo Power. Vivo and Flare launched a definitive strategic partnership to deploy $100 million in XRP for institutional yield. Now, I definitely did some looking into this Vivo Power, because I ran across a headline that talked about some troubles that they had with the NASDAQ. Because one of the biggest things that everyone is talking about is, NASDAQ listed company is holding XRP in a MicroStrategy type relationship, which is very true. As it stands right now, their NASDAQ standing is good. They received like $65 million from a Saudi Arabian investment fund. So we'll set that one to the side. What I see for Flare is not only do they now have the retail side on lock, they're now expanding to institutional players. Sorry about that. They're expanding to institutional players, which means their DeFi offering is sort of pick up and play, where you can plug it into your existing financial system. Again, representing a bit of a pivot here from solely offering smart contract services to building out your entire DeFi backend. And they're leveraging XRP to make it happen. So this looks good. This definitely looks good. But something else that popped up when I was looking into Vivo Power, they're getting ready to launch another company. This company is called Carrot Digital. Carrot Digital is a crypto mining company. You want to know what they've been mining the last couple of years? Dogecoin. I bring that up because wasn't the other asset Dogecoin that Flare had in their roadmap to bring DeFi and yield to? Now they've partnered with a company who has been mining Dogecoin for years. I would assume they have their own stockpile. And if they're in crypto mining, what's stopping them from mining Bitcoin? Here's the scenario I'm trying to put together here. The entirety of the F assets ecosystem includes not just XRP, but Dogecoin, Bitcoin, Litecoin, and a couple others. Those three networks, Dogecoin, Bitcoin, Litecoin, they're still proof of work, which means they can be mined. Vivo Power and Flare have come together. I'm pretty sure Hugo is aware that Vivo Power owns a crypto mining company. The quote from Uphold CEO about bringing staking to Flare, he mentioned that the XRP ledger wasn't a proof of stake network, so that's why we went to Flare. This shows that it works. The game plan that Flare has works. So what I'm getting at here altogether is that they were able to successfully bring yield to a non-proof of stake network. How easy will it be to bring yield to the proof of work networks that they have been mining through Carrot Digital for all this time? On the back end, this Vivo Power play is going to be a lot better for Flare in the long run than XRP. And that's absolutely fine, because I'm not saying that Vivo won't increase on this 100 million into institutional XRP fund. But Flare, they're setting up for later down the line with this one. They really are. So taking it all in together, ladies and gentlemen, Flare has successfully brought DeFi to the XRP ledger. They've successfully allowed centralized exchanges like Uphold to bring yield-bearing opportunities to networks that don't have those opportunities in front of their customers, opening the door for other exchanges to do the exact same thing. In addition to that, Vivo Power and their connections to the crypto mining space also sets up a depth for the Flare network's other F assets, Dogecoin and Bitcoin. Man, with that in place, very interested to see what comes from it. I'm not going to make any crazy predictions here. What I am here to do is to show you the puzzle pieces, and we can sit here at the coffee table and put these pieces together. That is what I see coming out of this. They established the XRP play, but we'll be hearing a lot more about Flare, Doge, Flare, and Bitcoin in the coming months.